When I was a kid, I used to wish I had a big old backyard with a trampoline and rope swing. But nowadays, if you take a look out back, you never know what you might find. I mean, you might even stumble across something like, I don't know, ancient ruins from the Roman Empire or a diamond ring. Here are 10 times people's afternoon strolls in the backyard led to them finding real treasure. Watch all the way through to uncover the mysteries that lie beneath this guy's backyard and so much more. Oh, and if you like this video, in the next 5 seconds, you'll find something special in your backyard. Number 10. For a kid, it's not uncommon to lose a toy car in the yard, but things like that typically turn up later. What is unbelievably rare, though, is a kid finding an entire Ferrari buried underneath the ground. Yep, you heard it right. That Ferrari. Specifically, a 1974 Ferrari Dyno 246 GTS. Now, you might be wondering, Sam, why would a car like this car be buried in some random kid's backyard? Well, it turns out they ended up having a whole crazy investigation done. It was discovered that the car was supposed to have been dumped in the ocean by a pair of hired thieves so the owner of the vehicle could claim the insurance on it. But rather than dumping it, the thieves buried it so they could come back later to unearth and then likely sell the sports car. After striking gold in their backyard, the car was eventually auctioned off to a young mechanic who went on to restore the vehicle. Even though the two boys who came across the car didn't get to keep it, they definitely walked away with a once-in-a-lifetime story. Number 9. Somebody call Bethesda because we've got a real-life Fallout shelter for them to reference for the next game. This crazy discovery was made by a family from Wisconsin who were clearing out some overgrown bushes when they came across the doors to a doomsday bunker. The shelter itself was made back at the height of the Cold War in the 60s with hopes that it would keep its occupants safe from radiation in the aftermath of a potential nuclear attack. The folks who did discover this underground sanctuary went on to explore it, and while they didn't come across anybody living down there, they did find things like food reserves, beverages, books, amongst tons of other things, and surprisingly enough, it was all pretty well preserved. The shelter itself, however, wasn't quite as lucky, suffering from flooding over the decades from the rain. But hey, if they ever muster up the elbow grease to clean the place out, then they've got a pre-built Fallout shelter right in their backyard. Not to mention, any of the kids in the house will 100% be using that for a secret base. Number 8. Before creation comes destruction. Or in other words, that old rundown building in your hometown has gotta go before we can put something shiny there. The same holds true anywhere, and in this case, anytime. While having a few contractors install a shower, this Englishman decided to have them install some electric wiring in the barn outside so that his sons could play ping pong. After a short while, the contractors called the man over and told him that they had discovered something abnormal. Now tell me, how the heck do you find a Roman villa in your backyard? The last thing I found in mine was a little gift my pup left me. But seriously though, the house was built right above a site where centuries before, the villa was standing proud, and now it's just buried beneath the ground. Along with the villa itself, archaeologists found things like brooches, pottery, and even coins from those ancient times. Considering the house was built right on top of the villa, it's highly unlikely that we'll see the rest of it unearthed anytime soon, but I do wonder if having all this treasure beneath your house raises the property value at all. Number 7. Speaking of valuable things showing up in unexpected places, small things like jewelry can be really difficult to keep track of. In fact, plenty of people lose wedding rings after taking them off for just a brief second. So if you do lose something like this, you should never give up hope of finding it, even if it's been weeks, months, or in this particular case, even years. This Swedish woman was doing chores around the kitchen when she took her wedding ring off, only to lose it shortly after, assuming that it had fallen down the sink drain. They kept the search up for many years after she had initially lost it, only to uncover it literally growing in the yard, sprouting up along with a fresh carrot. And who says Mother Nature isn't a nice lady? But miraculously, the ring was even in pretty good condition, especially when you consider it had been sitting underground for 16 years. I feel like this should go without saying, but the couple mentioned to reporters that she intended to keep it on this time. Number 6. You know, it's one thing to play pirates as a little kid and pretend to have struck gold, but it's another thing altogether to have actually found buried treasure in your own backyard. And while the couple who found it are adults, this would be any kid's wildest dream come true. The couple were walking a familiar hiking path when they came across a peculiar looking can along the ground. As they stopped to inspect it, they discovered it was filled with gold coins minted in the year 1900. After spending some time finding an expert to examine and appraise the coins, the couple learned that they were likely linked to a heist heist in San Francisco in the very same year the gold pieces were minted. And while those who stole the coins didn't reap the rewards, this couple certainly hit the jackpot, as in it was essentially finders keepers on the treasure. The pair went on to auction off these rare coins on Amazon and eBay and proceeded to donate a lot of money to charity. Good peeps. Number 5. It's been about 10,000 years since the planet Earth turned up the heat and we exited the last ice age. Even with all the millennia that have passed, remnants of those forgotten years are still popping up in unexpected places. For example, this guy from Michigan's backyard. Back in the year 2000, this gentleman wanted to deepen the pond in his backyard when he came across what he thought to be a large muddy log. If it was just a log, I can guarantee it wouldn't be on this list. Instead, what he unearthed was the massive bone of a mastodon which had gone extinct several millennia before this. Considering the size of the bone, if the guy had a dog, a toy like this would keep them busy for a little while. After spending some time calling different people who kept assuming he was just some crazy dude who found a cow bone thinking it's a dinosaur, he spoke with a local archaeologist who came over and agreed that it was definitely not from any cattle he'd ever seen. Shortly following, they got a whole team out to the site where more bones were uncovered from beneath the dirt. Hopefully a find like this doesn't make you too bummed out next time you watch any of the Ice Age movies. I swear it isn't Manny. Number 4. It might just be me, but I've always found it extremely eerie seeing a human skeleton. But evidently, this kid from Utah didn't even bat an eye at the site. The boy came across a skeleton while digging out a pond to raise trout in when he uncovered a skull, which initially, he just tossed it to the side. After a little bit, though, I can't say I blame him for being spooked by it, especially with the possibility of this being a potential crime scene. Thankfully, their suspicions were proven wrong, but they ended up having an expert come in and tell them the skeleton was at least a millennia old, dating back to around 700 AD, with the body likely being that of an ancient Native American of the Fremont tribe. Wow. All things considered, this definitely could have taken a weird turn. Then again, isn't there like some ancient Native American curse put on the final resting place in case they're ever disturbed? I don't know. Hopefully this kid didn't wake in any poltergeists with this discovery. Number 3. Yard work can be insanely tough, but it's usually pretty rewarding once it's all said and done. With that being said, this couple from New York definitely had a rewarding experience after cleaning up their property in the summer of 2018. After finishing some yard work, the couple noticed what looked to be an electrical box near some bushes and naturally went over to investigate, only to find out it was an old safe full of jewelry and over $50,000 inside.
When you find treasure, you open it, and that's what they did.
Hundreds and jewelry, diamonds, engagement ring, dozens of rings, gold with jade. It was stunning.
They did, however, find a means to track down the original owners of the safe. This was an incredibly kind gesture, and honestly, people like this give me hope that if I were to ever drop my wallet on the sidewalk or something, there might just be someone who comes along and gives it back. Even still, I hope this couple got a little something out of this whole ordeal. In fact, maybe those neighbors can repay the favor by doing their yard work for a few months. Number 2. If you thought the skeleton or the curses mentioned earlier were spooky, then you might want to turn the lights on because this one is definitely on the terrifying side. A man from Chicago was out in his garden when he came across 150 grand in cash. A pretty incredible find to say the least. Unfortunately, that find didn't do too much for the guy as he passed away shortly after due to complications with diabetes. Afterwards, a meeting was set to discuss where the money would end up when the guy's neighbor claimed it to be hers. The neighbor whose mother suffered from dementia and passed away in January claimed her mom thought the money to be cursed and had gotten rid of it. This was deemed to be true as she received a majority of the money following the meeting. However, the week following the man's death, his father, who would receive a smaller amount as a finder's fee, went into cardiac arrest and was hospitalized for some time. Listen, I love money as much as the next guy, but if this money were ever offered to me, I'd keep as far away from those bills as I could. Number 1, imagine you're out in your beautiful garden, just digging some holes when you see something shining from the ground. I think I speak for most of us here when I say that I wouldn't stop digging until I knew what I had. And well, this Austrian man did exactly that. He essentially uncovered an entire trove of treasure from centuries ago. Funnily enough, the guy didn't think of it as much of a treasure as he stored it away for years before rediscovering the stash in a box while selling his home. The collection of artifacts was said to be around 650 years old and came in bulk as around 200 individuals' artifacts were discovered in total. Between some gorgeous brooches and many rings, this is a stellar find for any archaeologist, let alone some random farmer. I wasn't able to find any info about how much these artifacts were appraised at, but I can guarantee his local jeweler wouldn't give him a fraction of what they'd be worth to historians. And while we can assume this might have been thrown away by some ancient Austrian, as the saying goes, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Thank you guys for watching 10 insane things found in people's backyards. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and like it. And there's another video on screen right now, which you can check out. I'll see you guys over there. This has been Sam from Top 5 Central, and I'm out.